Today's video is sponsored by Samsung. I've been looking to redo one of our gaming setups, something that was large enough to really show off some beautiful looking gameplay that we can showcase to people, but at the same time is small enough to actually, well, fit in the frame comfortably as well as myself and other things around it. And not only that, but also from a functional standpoint where I could play up close and personal if I wanted to do a desk setup with it, or further back if I wanted something that was a little more of a living room couch setup kind of idea. And around the same time that I was looking to do this, Samsung actually hit us up to take a look at and showcase one of their TVs that actually ended up being a perfect fit for what we were looking for, and that's this TV right here behind me. This is their 43-inch Neo QLED QN90C TV. This is a gaming-oriented display that checkmarks a lot of important boxes to make sure that you're getting the most out of basically whatever gaming hardware you want to make use of. The one option in particular that it does a really great job of showcasing is PC gaming. So we're going to actually go over all the different functions and features this TV has to offer, why it is a great fit for gaming, PC gaming especially, as well as going over a couple other support features that I think are really cool to highlight, such as Gaming Hub and HuSync. The first thing I really want to focus on, though, is the physical design of this TV and why I think it makes a perfect fit for a gaming setup, in particular what we're trying to go for here. To begin with, at 43 inches, I do think this is actually the perfect size for something that is not overwhelming when you're sitting up close to it. Again, I'm primarily using it as a PC gaming setup at this moment, and the screen is large enough that I'm able to get a full, beautiful view of everything that's happening in game, but it's not overwhelming to where I feel like I have to move my head around to actually get a full scope of what's on the screen. At the same time, 43 inches is just large enough that I can sit a pretty healthy distance away with the controller in hand if I want something that's a little bit more of a laid-back console-style setup, and I'm able to see everything nice and clean and clearly on the display. And while it is a TV, clearly it is design-wise meant to actually reflect a little bit more of a monitor setup. I think one of the best things that actually shows this off is the stand. Instead of being something that has like a pair of legs on the outside, it relies on a more monitor-style setup where you just have a single main support line and a base, which helps to make sure that in a desk setup, you're able to have as much real estate available for you in order to take full advantage of. So you're able to have nice more space available for any other kind of stuff you need to outline your setup with. And even more importantly than that, however, is the fact that this TV does support a full set of 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. If you're not sure why that's important, HDMI 2.1 is the most recent standard that is being used across all the major systems. It's also very useful to use for PC gaming as well, because it's fast enough to be able to support having both high resolution and high frame rates at the same time, which if you're using an older standard of HDMI, it's not going to be able to keep up with. So if you're using this for a PC or even using it with an Xbox Series X or PS5, you're going to be able to take advantage of both 4K and higher refresh rates at the same time. And with 4 of them, you could hook all those systems up while still having an extra slot available for something like a Nintendo Switch. Now, while this can work great for any kind of gaming setup that you want to use it with, again, PC is one of the main things we're really focusing on here, and the main reason for that is that unlike a lot of other gaming-oriented TVs out there right now, which tend to target 120 Hz refresh rate, this TV is capable of 144. While 120 is enough to get the full use out of something like an Xbox Series X or PS5, PCs generally have targeted for even higher refresh rates, and 144 has been a major standard for that, allowing for some extremely smooth, beautiful-looking gameplay. If you're unfamiliar with why high refresh rate is important in games, basically the refresh rate of the TV acts as a maximum limit of what a game can actually display as far as its max frame rate. A game can say that it's capable of pushing higher frame rates, but unless your TV supports a higher refresh rate to actually show that display speed, it's not going to actually mean anything. And higher refresh rate is extremely important in games, especially anything competitive, because a higher refresh rate and higher frame rate means the gameplay itself is not only going to be looking more smooth, but is also going to be more reactive and giving you more information about what's happening in a match, making sure that you have the kind of fast feedback that you need to have a competitive edge. So when you're looking at a competitive game like, say, Fortnite, a TV like this is able to give you good-looking visuals because it can support that 4K resolution, but at the same time, that 144 Hz refresh rate is going to help make sure that the gameplay is smooth and responsive when you need it to be. Now, at the top end of this video, one of the other things I mentioned about this TV is that it is a mini LED TV. If you're not familiar with what that is or you haven't seen me talk about it before, basically this is the newest form of LED TVs that have been made available, where it relies on much smaller lights to brighten up the panel. If you're not familiar with how LED TVs work, basically you have lights lights behind the display that light up its individual areas. And on older TVs, these lights were a lot larger, so it would have less refined control over which areas it could dim and light up, whereas with mini LEDs, because of the reduced size of them, there's a lot more refined control in terms of things for local dimming, which is also important for the visuals of a game because it makes sure that you have a nice, beautiful contrast. If you're playing anything that has bright areas and dark areas all in one display, it's going to make sure those darks get as dark as they can be, while making sure that the highs have a nice, beautiful contrast to those areas lit up. Speaking of bright, beautiful colors, one of the other interesting features this TV has to leverage is auto HDR. Basically, if you've ever watched HDR content for movies or played games in HDR, you'll know that it ups the color detail in high brightness zones to make sure that you're getting the best looking image possible. And if you're watching SDR content, it doesn't really hit that same degree of detail. And so what auto HDR does is that it takes any kind of SDR content, whether you're just watching shows or playing games that don't support HDR, and the TV will put to work its own processor to figure out the best way of displaying that, and will basically manipulate the image to get it as close to true HDR as it can. Another really handy feature this TV has that especially helps in the smooth gameplay department is AMD FreeSync Premium Pro. What that basically means is that if you're using an Xbox Series X or a gaming PC that has an AMD GPU, you're capable of making use of AMD FreeSync, where the GPU is going to directly communicate with the TV to make sure that the speed at which gameplay is being displayed from the graphics card is actually being matched on the TV itself. What this ends up doing is that if you ever have games that have an unstable frame rate where it's kind of jumping around a little bit, this helps to smooth and stabilize that out visually to where you're not going to notice it as much. It gets rid of screen tearing. It overall just ends up making for a faster, more responsive, and more smooth looking experience compared to if the GPU was just pushing out whatever it was pushing out and the TV was trying to display the best it can without directly knowing what speed it's coming in at. Again, smoother looking gameplay and faster response time, super key to competitive gameplay, and that is a great edge that this has to offer. Now, while all of those special features are useful for getting the most out of your games, there's a couple other support features of the TV that I think are just really awesome to highlight, some of which are still very gaming related actually. But the first one I want to touch on is HuSync. This is a feature that is built into the TV that normally you'd have to buy some kind of external box to be able to support. You do have to pay for a separate activation fee to be able to make use of it. But what this does is it allows your TV to communicate over Wi-Fi with all of your other Hue-based devices in order to sync colors based on what's being displayed on the TV itself. So for instance, if you're playing a game where blue is a very prominent color that's being pushed, all the lights around it are going to match it to be blue. If instead it's green, you're going to get green instead. And what this allows for is, I think, two really cool things. One, it just makes for a beautiful looking setup and I think adds a really nice way of spicing up the way your gaming desk can look. And two, I actually think it does also play a really important part in terms of just upping the immersive factor of games you're playing. When the whole room and setup around you is matching the gameplay experience that you're getting, that just allows you to even better get sucked into the experience in a way that I just really fall in love with. Immersion to me is such an important part of gaming, and this is just a really neat way of incorporating that into a gaming setup. That again also doesn't hurt by being stylish at the same time. Something else interesting this TV has to offer that is actually specific to Samsung is the Gaming Hub. This is basically a built-in aspect of the TV that allows you to access a number of different cloud gaming services directly through the TV with no system required. So without anything plugged into it, no gaming PC, no Xbox, no anything, you can just sync a controller directly to the display itself and then hop into a number of different cloud play streaming services like Xbox Game Pass, Nvidia GeForce Now, Amazon Luna, and a whole bunch of other options, and play a game directly over the internet. Now, if you've ever used cloud gaming services like this before, one of the things you may be aware of is that how smooth and how good this experience can be is based also on how good of an internet connection you have, which one thing I do like to highlight about this TV is that while you can make use of it over Wi-Fi for connecting to the services, if you want to get the best experience possible, you should actually hardwire it, which this TV does have an actual built-in port supporting that, so you can plug it directly into your internet and get the best speeds possible. The TV has its own built-in Bluetooth support, so you can actually wirelessly connect your favorite gaming controller to the TV directly, whether that's an Xbox-style controller, a DualShock 4, a DualSense, all of those will connect to the TV via Bluetooth, and you can even hook up a Bluetooth headset to it as well in order to get a full-blown gaming experience with, again, no gaming system hooked up to the TV. Between all the different services it has to offer, there's actually quite the list of games you can jump into, including, once again, Fortnite, which is actually available on 3 different services, so when you go to launch the game, it actually lets you pick which of those services you'd like to take advantage of based on which one you're subscribed to or which one offers the best experience possible, and you could just dive right into the game. Overall, I'm just really excited to make use of this TV for videos moving forward. I think it's a great fit for what we were looking for to kind of update one of our gaming setups in the future. You've probably seen sometimes in the past recently where I've shown off gameplay on smaller displays, and it just didn't look quite as good as this is capable of. I think the 43-inch size is perfect where we're going to be able to showcase some awesome looking gameplay, but also, you know, make a nice little set around it. So keep an eye open for this in future videos. And so I just want to once again thank Samsung for sponsoring today's video and sending this TV out so we have the opportunity to use it in our setup moving forward. If you are interested in grabbing it for yourself, there is a link down below in the description with more information available. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button to let me know, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys later.